I'm going to be presenting the results of another wave of the Asia research on research pieces. It's almost like a tracking study of the market research industry in Asia, but with a particular focus on Singapore and Indonesia. So this is a survey that's been running probably for 8 years now, and it includes a buyer survey, which is a telephone-based survey conducted each year, and that's conducted among corporations who buy full-service market research through external market research firms at least once a year. And the individuals are the decision maker within the corporation or the agency used. So I imagine some of you may have taken part in that survey. Thanks for that. That is a survey conducted in both Singapore and Indonesia. And I'm going to be showing some results from those two markets. I mean, two very contrasting markets, but those differences are quite interesting. And then there's the stakeholder survey, an online survey conducted each year around this time, and I think in fact it's still ongoing, and that's both clients and agencies who work in the market research industry in Asia. So first of all, let's understand a bit about the source of market research. So among the agencies who took part in the stakeholder survey, so this is across the Asia Pacific region, but clearly with a Southeast Asia focus. The main source of research is coming from the multinational corporations. So we asked what were your leading client types, second and third. So you'll see that in 2017, 52% of the agencies say multinational corporations are the leading source of business. But what's more notable is that's actually declined somewhat from 2015. So in 2015, about 2/3 of agencies say that the MNCs was their main source of business, and it's declined. And it's being picked up a bit by, you see, large local corporations, 16% versus 9% 2 years ago. And even the government and public sector. So MNCs are the main source of business, but it is dropping, and so agencies are having to look for other sources of business for their market research. This is the results from the buyer survey, these are results for Singapore, where we asked whether your budget for market research had increased in the green or decreased from the previous year. So this is tracked from 2013. You'll see that there was modest growth in 2014 and 15, but from 2016 and 17 there has been a decline, and in fact in Singapore there's been a net decline of 10% of budget. So that market's experiencing some difficulties. We look at Indonesia, the picture's quite interesting. It's gone in 3 stages. So first of all, if we look at 2013, the market was very buoyant, with 64% of clients saying that they had a higher budget for research compared to the previous year, versus just 5% saying lower. Over the next 2 years, that had softened, but there was still an increase in budget. And what do you think will happen in the next 2 years? Not great. You'll see that the once buoyant market of Indonesia is not as buoyant as it was, but at least presumably those budgets have worked through and haven't increased any further. So it's I guess the markets are quite similar now, being in a stage of stagnation. Hopefully things might change or improve going forward. Now that is also reflected in the number of projects that clients undertake each year in Singapore and Indonesia. So in Singapore it's an average of 6.5 projects versus 7.3 in Indonesia, so somewhat more, but the number of projects have actually declined in the last year, which is probably reflecting the lower budgets. terms of the type of suppliers, research suppliers that clients use, so this is in Singapore, there's quite a range of different suppliers that clients turn to. The leading sources are independent agencies and large MNC research firms. So that's like the big four versus the boutiques or independent. That's all dropped back. You'll see that both of those clients are actually using fewer suppliers. In fact, it's gone from an average of 4.1. I mean, it's been around 4 different suppliers used in the last year, and that's fallen back to 3.5, and that's reflected by the fact that the reach of the independent agencies and large MNC firms is lower. Although, actually, the independent agencies have now edged ahead of the large MNC research firms. What you do see is some increase in DIY research, but particularly specialist analytics consultancies. So 38% of clients in Indonesia are using specialist analytics consultancies. There's others. Now, community panels, which is something we're going to be talking about today, it took off a bit from 14 to 15, but it hasn't really gained significant traction, so it's around 15-16% usage in Singapore. And there's a range of other companies being used. There's also quite a lot of clients go direct to online panel companies in Singapore, so it's been about 40%. There was a peak last year, but it's been typically 40% of clients going direct to panel companies. Now in Indonesia, the picture it's far more skewed or far more concentrated to those main 2 sources of supply, like the large MNC firms and the independent Asian research firms. So they're pretty much neck and neck. DIY research it dropped off, but it's coming back, as well as management consultants. Online panel companies, it seems to be falling, but that's just, we ask them whether you're directly engaging online panel companies. There is more online research being done in Indonesia, but clients aren't going direct to the panel companies. And again, community panels, it's just making its mark in Indonesia, but still quite a lot has to happen before that gains further traction. It's always, I think, some very important bit of market research for the agencies is we ask clients across the region what are the factors that gets an agency within the consideration set for research, and this is specifically for ad hoc research. So we've got asked this over the last 3 years. The leading factors that would get an agency into the consideration set for work include experience of similar projects to their project, reputation in the field, combined with good client servicing, as well as the team lead. But things like, whether you're a big name, the international network, or the familiarity of the supplier to the internal clients is relatively less important. So it's more about the capabilities of the research firm, their specialism, experience, and also the team lead, which is actually coming higher in importance. And then in the considerations for the final selection of the agency, it's similar things. Now, clearly price is important. We asked people, what are the top 3, what is in the top 3 factors in selecting the final agency? Although maybe price is becoming less important. I always like to look on the bright side, and that is almost 50% of clients don't put price in their top 3. But you'll see that experience of similar projects, innovative approach is also quite important. But the project lead, now a third, it goes from 6% up to 33% now, is that the lead researcher within that team is quite important. And then further questions to the clients, which are, in what areas are you not satisfied with your current suppliers of market research? And we compare Singapore with Indonesia. So actually, all Indonesian clients have some complaint about their suppliers, because in Singapore there was about 30% said, no, I'm completely satisfied. But in what areas are you most dissatisfied, or where you're looking for improvements? And the biggest ones, if you look at Indonesia versus Singapore, there's a big gap there, that there's not enough in terms of depth of analysis, clarity of reports, knowledge of the client's industry. So those are the top 3 factors that clients in Indonesia are seeking improvements from their suppliers. In terms of outlook, this question that's asked every year is, how quickly do you expect the change in the market research industry in the next 5 years? So will there be a lot of change, tremendous? The kinds of research departments and suppliers today will no longer exist. A lot, some big changes in terms of the type of organisations, quite a bit, some, or very little. So now, despite, we also ask about what you feel are the threats, opportunities and threats to the market research industry. We'll go into detail as to what they are. But on balance, do the industry stakeholders see more opportunities, somewhat more opportunities, in equal measure, somewhat more threats, or far more threats? So generally, the research industry still remains optimistic, with you're seeing more people saying there are more opportunities than threats. Perhaps not as optimistic as it was back in 2013, but people still have a positive outlook. And what are those areas of opportunity? So this was a list of areas. We asked people what you think is the main opportunity, second opportunity and third opportunity. And consistently over the last few years, leveraging on technology such as mobile devices and online platforms remains the biggest opportunity for the market research industry. And we've added some other things which are related, like new research methods, eye tracking, big data, social media monitoring. So you'll see that technology is coming in 3 of the top 4 opportunities for the market research industry. But not to forget this, adding more value to the research, providing greater insight, is also something that agencies can do. And as we saw earlier, there's still a gap, particularly in Indonesia, in terms of depth of analysis and knowledge of the industry sector. But what is evident in terms of these other ones coming lower down is continued organic growth in the industry, growing consumerism in emerging markets. That kind of organic growth, people simply don't see that as an opportunity anymore. There is, as we saw earlier, there is not that big growth that we had seen in previous years. And in terms of threats, it's still the same issues: price pressure, open tenders, markets oversupplied, which is good for clients because you've got more choice, but we still see that price pressure is the main threat. Something else which is trending and something that is recorded in the survey, I'm not showing it here today, is that increasingly clients are undertaking research in-house. Technology does allow them to do that. The other things, this was a new measure that was introduced in 2015. Multinationals, MNC corporations are scaling back, related perhaps to this general economic uncertainty. These things are now coming fairly high up in terms of the threats to the industry overall. So just to sum up, MNCs remain the main source of business for market research agencies, but we see that falling. We see the MNCs are scaling back. Some of the big names in the industry are spending less on research, maybe as a result of with the climate of economic uncertainty. So agencies are having to go to other sources of business. The golden era of market research in Indonesia is over. No, I'm just saying that. No, it's still got a very good potential. I mean, with 250 million people and 5 million consumers coming into the middle class every year, which is the size of Singapore every year. What we're saying is that the boom time is what the earlier boom times were. Are not here today as the stagnant budgets show. and with lower budgets, fewer vendors are being used, fewer projects, and quite a lot of research being now done in-house. But despite this, the industry is optimistic. Opportunities in technology, improving quality of research, and particularly in Indonesia, where the quality of analysis, strength of recommendations, and just the vendors understanding more about the client's business are areas for improvement. Rate of change in the market research industry is increasing, and that's probably because the market is tighter, is that suppliers need to innovate to differentiate. So it cannot the agencies can no longer rely on continued organic growth or more consumerism in the emerging markets to sustain their business. So despite the opportunities identified in technology, which is at a regional level, the adoption of technology in Indonesia still remains relatively low. Relatively low take-up of community panels, for example, relatively low take-up of other technology. So this session is going to tell you more about the type of technology that there is in the market, and so we look forward to the other presentations. And that's all for now. I mean, I think because we're a bit tight on time, I can take questions at the end of the next session. Thank you.